to the front page of the Sunday Telegraph, Nick. What have they got?
Yeah, well, of course they have salmon as well, but they have Miliband wastes cash on net zero pylon blight. It's these pylon blights we've heard so much about. And what it is, Miliband is so obsessed with pylons. It says here, ideologically committed to pylons. It's just a weird thing to be... He is a bit of a pylon, isn't he? It's just a weird thing to be committed to. And he's so obsessed with 2030 that he wants to build these pylons, even though if they waited till 2034, they could do an underground cable system, which would come in £600 million cheaper. But everyone's like, oh, 2030, because they've just made up this arbitrary deadline when the world has to end. Yeah. So you have to hit everything by 2030. So imagine the damage that Pylon Ed's going to do. I've just come up with Pylon Ed, but I'm sticking with it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm surprised that it's cheaper to put cables in than pylons. I thought that's why you did pylons in the air, because it was a lot easier than burying all of those cables. It took forever when Virgin Media did it around where I live, so imagine doing that through the whole country.
I think it's to do with ongoing maintenance, because obviously you've got pterodactyls, you've got Ukrainian drones flying into these cables, so it doesn't work out. But this is just part of Labour's ideological attack on NIMBYism. So they've decided that NIMBYism is terrible at stopping, big, large-scale projects getting underway, the investment in infrastructure, it's stopping new houses being built. So the punishment is part of the process for Labour. The punishment is part of the appeal for Ed Miliband. He wants to punish people who don't. People say, "Oh, we don't want these big pylons," and they're buzzing and they're giving us weird medical conditions. He wants to build them more because of that.
He gets to ruin people's areas on the way to ruining energy, so it's all a win for him.
He gets to ruin the country as well.
Yeah, amazing.
But we've got some of the highest... This push for net zero is just completely bonkers, because Britain's a tiny part of the world, tiny part of world emissions, and we've got some of the most expensive electricity in the world. So we shouldn't be, and this is holding back, as well as putting a cost onto people, and as well as killing people, because people can't afford to heat their homes or chill their gin and tonics. It's holding back our economic growth. And in a few years, solar is becoming so efficient and so cheap that, we're not going to need pylons going out to the North Sea. We'll just be able to have solar panels on everything.
You think solar's going to work in England?
Yeah, it's becoming so efficient that you could just put solar panels on everything.
What's happening is global warming is giving us so much sun. This is how it works. Yeah. The solar's going to start working more, and the more sun we get.
But don't you need a national grid that can have more capacity in both directions?
But
if you're producing at home, then you can just add into the grid. But you need a grid that can actually, deal with both ways of flowing power.
I think a lot of power is going to become decentralised, so we're going to have solar just everywhere, so the power is going to be where it's needed. We're going to have battery storage, and also we're going to have modular nuclear reactors. And I think Ed Miliband should be investing in nuclear and not these fangly nonsense pylons.
And just quickly, just for balance, I just want to say climate change isn't real. Just for Ofcom, because I'll get annoyed if we don't give both sides, so it's not real.
Is that because you actually said something that agreed with climate change a few paragraphs ago, and you're
well, I think you're also discussing energy solutions, and I just want to sort of say, just do whatever, because none of it's real.
Also, just on that,
burn coal.
One of the reasons why our electricity is so expensive is we've got a stupid way of pricing it, where the price of electricity is based on the gas that's used, even if gas is only a small part. Yeah. So you do renewables for the first bit, nuclear for the rest, and then little top-ups gas, and the price of the electricity is based on that gas price. Yeah. So we're a hostage to Putin anyway, regardless of how many wind farms and solar farms we use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just for balance, I'd just like to say that climate change does exist, and it's a good thing, and we should have more of it, because this country's too cold.
We've managed to balance in three directions. We're like a table. Very good. The Mail, Leo. And Robert Jenrick wants to get rid of all migrants, so he's clearly worked with Lewis Schaefer.
So Robert Jenrick vows to kick 1 million illegal migrants out. I mean, it's a start. As Tory leadership candidate vows to end Britain's soft-touch reputation. When he's Prime Minister, he's going up against... it's just him and Kemi Badenoch left in the Tory leadership race. So, I mean, if you think he can't do it, he's also shed 4 stone. He's got rid of 4 stone of fat from his own body, which is probably tougher. The ECHR was trying to stop him from taking that Ozempic jab.
He deported a lot of fat.
Yeah, he's deported a lot of fat. So I trust this.
And it was only initially Ozempic, then he later just did it the old school way.
Yeah, well, Ozempic only works, you've got to keep taking the drug. It's a terrible way to lose weight. You really need willpower, and the fact that he's actually shown he's got willpower suggests he might actually be able to do something.
Didn't he use the drug to get down to that weight and has simply maintained that weight since?
Yeah, but then
he's not used willpower to lose weight. He's lost He's used willpower to just maintain weight. That's got to be easier, hasn't it?
But then as soon as you stop taking the Ozempic, you want to eat food again. So if you haven't made the structural changes in your life to not get fat,
you'll just bounce back. It's still hard. And you've lost weight recently, Steve. A bit of Ozempic?
Mainly running.
Touch of Ozempic?
I'm a 5K guy these days.
Right.
Which was the last time we were on the show, I was saying it's just to get out of the house. I don't even like running. Right. But I prefer it to being indoors.
I thought you were talking about your salary. What's interesting is that, this Robert Jenrick, he was a Remainer, so he's taken a bit of a swing to the right. But people are saying, especially in a lot of the Tory wets are saying, oh, he's too hard line. This is going to alienate voters. I think people don't understand. This isn't particularly hard line, particularly by historical standards. In the 1500s, this would have just been seen as common sense. But I think especially by the time the next election comes round, with Starmer letting in how many thousands of people in a month, is ridiculous. This is going to be what all the parties are going to be pushing. Well, Reform and the Tories, Labour will probably be promising the same thing, but won't actually be doing it.
Well, I mean, go on.
No, I was going to say, in terms of promising but not actually doing it, I quote you, the David Cameron, tens of thousands.
Yeah.
And how did that pan out?
But I'm getting so sick of that caveat, because every time I post about Jenrick or the Tories, I have to say, obviously we can't really trust them, but everyone still replies to me, can't trust the Tories, they're not going to do it. Can we just accept that that's like a given for the Uniparty, Labour and Tories, we can't trust anything they say, and then we can just carry on, because it just gets too boring. Jenrick, this is interesting, because he, as Leo says, not that radical, but it actually puts him more in line with the sort of European right. The question has been, why is Britain so far behind? And there's many theories, first past the post system, many other theories, but we're sort of out of step with Europe. This just puts us more in step with Europe. Where it gets really interesting to me is this actually puts him to the right of reform, potentially, because we have Farage, particularly in his interview with Stephen Edgerton, being very coy about deportation. And Farage wants to get the old Labour vote. He's repeatedly stated, no, we're getting votes from Labour. That's his vision for reform. So you could easily have a situation where they're trying to get the old sort of red wall, old Labour vote, and Jenrick's just going full on, sort of in line with the AFD.
But they both get to say things out loud that they don't have to worry about delivering on. I mean, Robert Jenrick could say whatever he wants right now. He's never going to be under pressure to deliver. But
I think he actually would. I mean, the trouble that Rishi and Prime Ministers have had in the Tory party is they haven't really had the will or the means to effect that change. I know Liz Truss talks about how, there's this sort of woke blob, almost like a deep state that stymies, any attempts at changing. But Tony Blair, when he got in, managed to do a sort of root and branch reform of the civil service and bend it to his will and make it do what he wanted. And I think somebody like Robert Jenrick could do that.
Maybe I'm just more cynical, thinking whatever he says now is to get voted as the leader of the Conservatives. If 5 years from now he gets the PM job, I bet there'll be some caveats of like, no, I didn't realise. That was a promise 5 years ago. Yeah. You can't expect me to keep that.
I think he'll face opposition from the civil service and from the party who... The wets in the party will be a big problem for him. But I do think he's serious, like Leo says. He's got this very serious plan on immigration. He's a smart guy, stoical guy. I actually do... If anyone can do it, he can. Whether the Tories are just hopeless, that's another question.
Stoical guy, but 5 years ago he was one of the...
No, but I think he's... I personally believe he's a true convert. He was sent in... He looked at the immigration question. He resigned over Rwanda. People might say I'm a sucker. I just truly think he's seen how bad the immigration stuff is and actually believes it. Now, whether he can do it against the wets in the party and the civil service, and whether he'll even be there in 2029, these are all big questions.
I think there'll be a crazy event, like a crazy terrorist atrocity that'll really swing the public mood over the next 5 years. I just think it's inevitable over that stretch of time.
Right, there's a clip we'll play back at some stage. Nick, the Observer. Oh no, after all that free speech stuff, Elon Musk has been blocking some tweets, which is why my tasteful nudes have not been getting likes.
Well, it's a bit more complicated, Steve. So Trump campaign worked with Musk's ex to keep leaked J.D. Vance file off platform, but it is The Guardian or Observer, so we've got to be very careful. Now, what it is that Musk believes this was doxing Vance because it had things like his personal phone number. It's rumoured to have his children's addresses in there because it had the family address. And this was from someone called Ken Klippenstein. And also the file released by Klippenstein was linked to Iran, so it came from Iran. So it's kind of like should we be publishing things that come from Iran anyway? And the FBI said that. So now Glenn Greenwald has said actually it is normal to release this kind of thing. And he should redact this information, but then he should be put back on. But Musk is notoriously tough on doxing because he's obviously had attempts on his own life and he knows how serious it is. And there's been 2 attempts on Trump's life just recently. So he's very hard line on doxing. Now, the claim from The Guardian is this is hypocrisy because, he doesn't like this kind of thing the other way around. In reality, of course, the other side were taking the president off, a former president off when they banned Trump. You had extreme censorship on X. So I would say it's almost just fighting fire with fire. If the same happened the other way around, not that I'd condone it, but I'd just say this is the world. But I don't even think that is an example of it, because this is more an example of Musk's sensitivity to doxing.
Yeah, it seems to be purely around the doxing. I mean, releasing his children's address, releasing his social security number, his phone number, that's ridiculous and obviously illegal. That's actually illegal in the law, not just Twitter's rules. And if you want to look at, the media colluding with government and big tech, look at when the Hunter Biden laptop story was taken off Twitter.
The New Yorker was suppressed.
Yeah, and reputable newspapers were delisted because they were sharing this thing. We were told it was misinformation. Actually, it was true, and it would have hugely damaged Joe Biden's election chances and possibly meant we had a Trump presidency.
So do you have to pick a side? Either the social media platform is a publisher and does decide what gets linked to on there, or it doesn't. This is part of the issue there. If you're just like a link repository, then you don't pick the ones you don't like.
Yeah, but it's not just about that. It's about the doxing. The Hunter Biden thing wasn't doxing anybody except for... it was doxing some Ukrainian prostitutes and some crack dealers, but that's it.
But with this guy, they banned him from Twitter as well. It wasn't just not letting that link be linked.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument if he takes that out, he should be allowed back on. Greenwald claims that these things are publicly available anyway if you Google them. So, yeah, it's balanced. Musk's not perfect, is he? He's a guy responding going, you're doxing, you're banned. And we know it's somewhat arbitrary sometimes how he does these things. Of course, I'd rather have it this way around than the other side, banning the New Yorker story and trying to win the election for Biden, banning Donald Trump off the platform. Some of this is going to come back on these people, and they're going to realise, we don't like it when it's the other way around, right?
Yeah.